There's two facts you need to establish to show that Christianity is true. The first is, does God exist? If he does exist, then at least a resurrection is possible and Christianity could be true. The second fact is what you mentioned, that Jesus really rose from the dead. If Jesus really did rise from the dead, if he predicted and accomplished his resurrection from the dead, then Christianity is true. If he didn't, it's false. In other words, it's a religious worldview you can investigate and discover whether or not it took place. It's not just someone's philosophy, right? It's based in historical facts. So the book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, we lay all that out. But here's maybe one thing we can clarify for people. I say this, that Christianity is not true because a series of documents that we put under one binding we call the Bible says it's true. In fact, Christianity would be true if the Bible never existed. People go, well, how can that be? I asked them, do you realize there were thousands of Christians before a line of the New Testament was ever written? Why? Because Christianity did not begin with a book. It began with an event, the resurrection. There would be no book where Jews in the first century a man claimed to be God and rose from the dead, who then went and suffered and died for it, unless a man really did claim to be God and really did rise from the dead, because there's no motive to make this up. These men, all the writers of the New Testament, as you know, with the exception of Luke, were all Jews. They're all Yahweh-believing, Old Testament, we're God's chosen people believers who didn't believe a man could claim to be God. That was blasphemy. Didn't believe him. One man would rise from the dead. They knew we'd all rise from the dead at the end of time, but they didn't think one guy was going to do all this, and here they are saying it happened. Now, thankfully, later they wrote it down so we could know about it and orient our lives according to it. But the Bible isn't the cause of Christianity. It's the result of Christianity.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
Another way of saying it is the New Testament writers did not create the resurrection. The resurrection created the New Testament writers. Mm-hmm. When you look at an event and you want to know whether or not it really took place, you don't just have to look at the evidence for the event. You have to look at the evidence you have and say, what is the likelihood I would have this evidence if the event did not occur? If the resurrection did not occur, would we have all these Jews sacrificing themselves for a lie they knew was a lie? Would we have them creating these documents in order to deceive people? For what reason? Would we have the church growing out of Jerusalem when the empty tomb was known, where the tomb was known? I mean, if Jesus' body was in there, it would have squashed Christianity. Would we have all of this evidence? Would it have overturned the Roman Empire eventually if it had no basis in truth? I think it takes more faith to believe that we would have the kind of Christianity that came out of the first century today if Jesus hadn't risen from the dead.